Hey everyone, host Sway Romero here, and I'm a venture associate working at a venture fund and an evening part-time graduate student at the NYU Stern School of Business studying quantitative management. And I'm going to share with you a time I overcame an obstacle. Now, if you work in the investing world, specifically venture capital, you definitely heard about Silicon Valley Bank and its failure. If you haven't, in the span of 72 hours, there was mass hysteria in the VC world because Silicon Valley Bank, one of the largest banks in the world, and arguably the most tech startup supporting bank, failed. So for a good amount of time, what seemed like a long time, investors and VCs were worried about their money, and they had every right to be concerned about where the situation was going. I'm going to share not only how my fund handled it, but how I handled it, because this was an obstacle for everyone in the world of venture capital. On Thursday evening, we started getting news of what was happening, but we let it play out a little bit because we weren't sure. Much of the news broke out that same day. But by Friday morning, it was clear that the hysteria was building up, and venture funds had to make decisions on how they wanted to handle the situation. My general partners and I had an emergency meeting where we were each given a task, and my task was to reach out to all of our portfolio companies and get some information on how they were doing, what their exposure was to Silicon Valley Bank, and if it impacted their operations. But I was already a bit of a step ahead because I was preparing that email to send out to all of our portfolio companies, because logically, LPs and the founders we support, they're going to want to know how we're going to support them and what the status of our fund is. So we had that meeting that same Friday morning, and I built a tracker where I was able to log down the name of the company, the email of the founders, their exposure, other notes and comments. And by evening, about 7-8 p.m. on Friday, I was able to report to my partners the status of about 80% of our portfolio companies. And I told them that I would be monitoring the situation over the weekend, and I did. On Saturday, we received more information. I logged that into my Excel sheet that I had organized to make sure I could tell where everyone was. And on Sunday at 3 p.m., when my general partner said, "Hey, Jose, what's the status of our companies?" I was ready. Within 20 minutes, I had a full report of the full exposure of all of our companies, how they were doing, what impact it had on their operations, and what their plans were for the following week to either recover funds, move funds, or whatever else. And it was such a short amount of time when it happened, but I feel like I overcame this obstacle very well because, again, being kind of the point associate at this fund, I was able to gather that information quickly, stay on top of it, and continue monitoring it, because if other people didn't know where their money was going, I definitely knew I wanted my partners to know as much as they could about the status of our fund. And I did. So that's the time I overcame an obstacle. A bit under pressure, right? Because it was one for everyone, and it was a time where no one knew where things were going. But it gave me an opportunity to see obstacles as opportunities rather than something to hold us down.